If you only eat whole foods and you crave a whole food, then you should always eat that whole food. So as an example, in this morning, off camera, I started my day off with a tomato. Let's talk about fruit quality. So if you look at these organic tomatoes, you can see that they're very red. If it looks yellowy, you shouldn't buy it because it's gonna taste like shit. If you cut into a fruit and it smells really strong, that's a good indication of really good soil quality. So you want it to smell really good, you want it to have a deep, rich color, and obviously you want it to taste really good. I repeat, smell, color, and taste are more important than the food itself actually. You want quality. If you can find tomatoes that are more high quality than the pineapples that you think are more healthy than the tomatoes, then obviously you should pick the tomatoes. Alright, let me show you some stuff. So this is raw apple cider vinegar. It's unfiltered with the mother, it's organic, you know, all the good details. And if you put a little bit at the bottom of the glass and then you fill it up with water until, you know, it tastes good, it's not too sour. It's an alternative to water and milk if you don't have raw milk. And it won't dilute your stomach acid as much because it's acidic. And I also use it to wash my hands, like you can see over here. It's very good for that. And this is just me, you know, cutting the meat with my fingers. I find that this is the easiest way of doing it. And of course, as you can see, it's packaged in plastic. So what we're going to do is we're going to scrape the surface of the meat to remove any plastic residues. You might think that this is a stupid thing to do and that you're just losing meat, but it's not a lot of meat that you're losing. And the thing is, with raw ground beef or any fatty meat, fat breaks down plastic, and if that stuff is next to the packaging on the surface, then it's going to melt the plastic and you're going to have plastic wherever you see fat. So just removing that surface layer is always a smart thing to do. So from a plastic perspective, always be wary of anything with fat, anything that's acidic, and any high temperatures. Any one of those three things is going to make plastic break down. Now I'm flattening the meat into the bowl so that when I put it in the warm water bath, because this meat is cold, it will warm up much faster. And then to warm up the meat, you just put it in there, and then when one side is warm, you flip it over, you warm the other side, and then you go on like that. Now this is just an avocado that I put in there, just another fat source, contains things that the butter doesn't. Alright, so you know the meal I just made? This isn't it. This is another meal. What happened is that I made a short out of that other meal, and I was supposed to sit here and talk about that meal and about other things, but I forgot. I just ate it up because that's how it is when you eat nice food. A lot of people in my audience are very interested in eating raw meat because I do it and I'm very good at explaining why it is healthy. When you have any foot inside of nutrition and you understand the principles behind nutrition, then it's pretty easy to explain why raw meat is healthy. Now, a phenomenon I've seen is that people don't eat raw meat because of me, but they cook their meat less. And something I want to explain is that although the inside might seem raw, it doesn't mean that the inside hasn't been subjected to temperatures that are bad. So what I mean is, the color isn't the only indicator. The true indicator is the inner temperature. What temperature did it reach? And if it went above the body temperature of a cow, then we have a problem. I have something very interesting to share. So you might know that I was sick for a while, and I haven't thought about raw honey for a very long time. I don't get any cravings, I don't get any thoughts about it, and again, thoughts and cravings, they go together. You can't successfully have a craving without actually thinking and visualizing the food in your head. So thinking and craving, they go together. You can think of a food without the craving, of course, but if there's a craving, there's a thought of the food too, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to know which food it is that you're craving if you can't think about it. But anyway, the first day I got sick, or when I woke up, the next day I thought of raw honey for the first time in many months, and I went ahead and got some. Not outside, of course. The honey we buy from a local guy is raw, but I don't consume it because every time I consume honey, I usually get acne. I get spots here and there, and I attribute that to glycation, so I usually avoid honey. But my body told me, or maybe it was just some random bullshit, eat honey with butter, with whatever. And I said, okay, sure. So I did. And it really helped my throat, helped my digestive system too, helped me digest stuff. And now I'm experimenting. So if you look here, that over there, that's honey, meat, and then butter. And I really feel like when I eat it together with meat or with butter or whatever it might be, it does help digest the stuff, okay? But you have to be careful. This is a very small amount of honey and you don't need more than that. So what I do is this, to know that I'm eating the correct amount. If you eat it and you feel like, this is too sweet, I don't want it, then you're eating too much. If you put the right amount on the meat, which is a very small amount, at least for me, it tastes really good. It's not overpowering. And that's it really. At least that's my experience. So I'm going to continue experimenting with honey because it seems as though the purported benefits that come with it are true. Oh, here comes another insight. You see, you can use a cold or a flu to understand the areas of your body that need work. So as an example, some people are going to get a flu and they're going to cough a lot, but they won't have a headache. Some people are going to get a flu and they won't cough, but they will get a headache. And this will be a recurring theme for them. So the thing is, if you're getting the headache, you probably have a bunch of pollution in your brain. If you're coughing a lot, your throat and your thyroid and your lungs are probably more dirty than your brain. If your appetite goes to shit and you get intestinal symptoms all the time, you get diarrhea and you vomit a lot when you get sick, and that happens every time you get sick really, then your digestive system is probably the most dirty place. And in the future, this might change. So based on the symptoms you get when you get sick, you can diagnose which areas are dirty or not. And again, the body might choose to clean a certain area. But again, when you get sick, you get a bunch of symptoms. So generally speaking, your body's going to be cleaning everything. So in a general sense, you can sort of understand what areas are dirty in your body based on the symptoms that you get. And this is something I noticed when I was sick. I see many people live streaming, so they sit there and eat. And then they just, they talk to the people in the chat and they sit there and eat. I don't know. Is that an idea? Would you like that? I'm sorry, again, I really like focusing on my food. I don't really like speaking, so excuse me. You know how they say drink 8 glasses of water a day? Well, this is raw fermented milk, and what I usually do is, for the first meal, I drink a glass, and then in between the first meal and the second meal, when I get thirsty, I drink another glass. And then for the second meal, I drink a glass, and then between the second and the third meal, I drink another glass. And so all in all, I probably drink 5 to 6 glasses in a day of raw fermented milk. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more, sometimes I don't even have raw milk. Thankfully, I have a bunch of raw milk right now. The reason this is super smart is because this stuff right here contains a bunch of vitamins and minerals. And so imagine taking all of the water that you drink and then switching it into something that not only contains a bunch of water, but also has a bunch of vitamins and minerals. Generally speaking, switching all of your water with vegetable juice or raw fermented milk, depending on your goals, depending on your current health state, your age, and so on and so forth. If you're younger, you want milk. If you're older, you're probably going to lean toward vegetable juice, is a really good idea, because not only are you going to be able to consume less while being more hydrated, you're also getting a bunch of minerals and vitamins that you weren't getting with the water. Now, before we complete this beautiful meal right here, this is going to be the last meal, I want to talk about this. So this is high quality extra virgin olive oil. It's organic, it's from Italy, it's, the good stuff. And I'm doing an experiment. So you see, people always say that olive oil is really healthy, but that's not the way I operate. The way I operate is that I don't believe what people say. I do the experiment and then I evaluate what effects I found based on the things I've read on the internet from, people who make sense. For 3 days, I've been opening this bad boy up, and then I do this. So it's not a lot, it's approximately 1 tablespoon. And then I mix it in by folding, this is hard to do with one hand by the way, but I fold it in on itself, and then I just keep doing this. And I find that the meat tastes really nice. Again, this stuff smells really strong. If you just take 1 drop and you put it in your mouth and you swallow that, it burns your throat. And that's how it's supposed to be. I can smell it from here. And I'm way behind the phone, by the way. Alright, so this is the last meal. This is obviously raw ground beef, and this is raw fermented milk. Now, we're mixed with olive oil, of course, extra virgin olive oil, high quality, you just saw the bottle. Now, the thing is, I don't feel like consuming more fat anymore today, and so I'm not having it with any butter. Otherwise, I would have it with butter. In the morning, I usually crave fat, so I have this with a lot of butter. In the evening, I might have reached the amount of fat that I need for the day, so I don't eat it with any fat. And of course, you will say that you mixed it with olive oil and it does contain fat, and that's true, and that's an important thing. We're getting fat with the meal. We're supposed to eat fat with the meat because none of our ancestors ate meat without fat, really. Unless, you know, they took muscle meat and they prepared it for survival reasons and it wasn't mixed with fat for some reason. But still, this ratio of fat is still very low for me. But that's what my body's telling me to do, so I'm gonna obey it. To know how much fat you're supposed to eat, go by your fat satiety. Now here comes a really interesting topic, and it's very relevant to the pattern you might be seeing here. I'm basically eating raw ground beef, and that's it. Yeah, there are many important things on the side, of course, but the main staple of every meal is raw ground beef. And I'm not doing that because of health, I'm doing that because it saves a lot of money. And by getting this raw ground beef, I'm also getting meat from very healthy cows at a very affordable price. That's the thing. If I were to get any other cut from those animals, I would pay 3 times the amount, 2 times the amount. The main point is that you might be thinking that this is unhealthy because we're eating the same thing. Now, from my perspective, I'm thinking that I should include fish and chicken. That would make it much better, but those are expensive, so I don't eat them very often. You might be thinking that, well, even if you did eat fish and chicken and meat every day, you varied up the meat, that would still be unhealthy because you're not including things like vegetables and more fruits and this and that. Where did this idea of needing to eat many different things every day come from? You had to learn that. It's the same thing with breakfast, lunch, and dinner. These are words that we created for different meal times, and we associate different types of meals with these times. While you could eat something that is generally considered a dinner meal at breakfast, and there would be no difference whatsoever. But yet you associate omelets and egg sandwiches and orange juice with the morning, while you associate, well, let's say, a big turkey with rice and I don't know what with dinner. Or maybe you associate that with Thanksgiving, I don't know. But what I want you to realize is these are all concepts, and these concepts don't help you become more healthy. They just limit you. So what I want you to do is think about, how do I make this healthier? Don't think about, oh, this is what I should eat at breakfast and lunch and dinner. Remove those concepts. Just think, what's the best food I could eat right now? That's it. And keep learning. Stay on that path of what's the most healthy food. That's it. Discard all of these bullshit concepts that we've created that just limit us and don't really help us in any way. With that said, I'm just gonna enjoy the rest of my meal. Go and achieve excellent health. I know you can do it.